Gavin, a 2-0 win at home to Braintree. What are the positives you're taking from that one?
Well, there's lots. There's lots. I mean, look. Firstly, I think I'd like to thank Steve for bringing the side down, and I think they're a really good side. To be fair, I think they'll trip a lot of teams up in that league. Sharp, fluid movement. So it's a really, first of all, it's a really good test for us, and we could have had probably a bizarre scoreline at some points tonight. Positives were that I thought as the game went on and we got to grips with what their shape was and what their patterns were, then I think we were quite good out of possession in respect of limiting them. But in the early stages, their movement was very good and caused us all sorts of problems. I think from the point of view that we could have scored a few goals tonight, and let's not forget so could they, so let's get that right, that's a massive positive, because I think we were 11 chances on Saturday and scored 1, and to the opposition's 3, I think, and they scored 2. That was what my analyst told me. So in that respect, we to come out with a couple of goals from probably a lesser ratio of chances, but some really good chances in the game, is a real plus. We got work to do in respect of our movement. We've got work to do in respect of how we function out of possession. But I think that's a team that would really test the best in our league, if I'm honest. So we've got to put that in perspective, and so to come out with it nil, slightly bizarre on how it unfolded, but we have, and so things to work on, things to take forward as positives.
I wanted to ask about formation as well. Previous games it's been a 4-4-2. Today it looked a bit more fluid. What's been the thinking today?
We played. So the one system we didn't play today was 4-4-2. We played 2 different systems in the game. I think that allowed us a little bit. It allowed us to keep the 2 up front for a large part of the game, which was important to me. If I am going to change the system, it's important that we keep the 2 up front. And but it just allowed us to put another one in the middle of the park, which I think we were lacking really in the 4-4-2. And then we went to a box, so that gave us potentially another body in the middle of the park, just to see the game out for sort of last 25 minutes. So yeah, it may have looked a bit better in some respects. I think there's a lot of work to do on the training field, no matter what system we play. I thought some of the guys came in today and really put a shift in. We really had to put a shift in, because you're playing against a very sharp, fluid side, and we have to acknowledge that. So yeah, we'll see where we're at for Saturday, because we've changed the systems today. We've won a game. That's immaterial to me, essentially, from the point of view that we've won. I want to see the sorts of things that we need to see from either system, and in some respects we have, and in other respects there's things to work on.
In terms of the personnel, a second start from Lamar Reynolds and the first goal for him. What have you made of his contribution so far?
Yeah, it's a pain, isn't he? It's a pain to play against. He can stretch you. He can also secure the ball really well. So I think really pleased for Lamar, because it's a great finish, to be fair. And he's forming a partnership, up there with Tommy, and we can't forget Harry as well. And we'll be keen to look at what they do together. So it's a contribution of experience, contribution of being out of stretch teams, which is something that we clearly lacked most of last season, and haven't quite had that until we brought him in this season. So look, he's now looking like he's enjoying himself a little bit in that middle part of the pitch, and if he long may keep scoring goals.
And in terms of the other new faces, Tommy Wood, Evan Jones, they've made a few starts now, and Rory Donaldson came in today. How are they settling in?
Yeah, I think Avan's worked extremely hard. He's had to, I think from the point of view of our wide players today, they've had a rough day. When I say they've had a rough day, they've had to really dig in and work hard because of the overloads that they create in those areas, particularly. So they've had to really stick with it, and as I say, there's work to do there. Rue, I think, has done very little, is the truth of it. He's still picking himself up to speed, and we just put him in there today to play in that central area. He's been away the weekend, not to give him too much test in respect of running. We don't want to break people quickly. So from his point of view, he's now aiming to be right for Torquay, as they all are, but he's coming a bit later than the others based on the early part of his pre-season with getting married, etc.
And finally, 5 games down now, 3 friendlies left. How are the players? Where are they tactically and physically in preparation for the new season?
I think physically we're in good shape. You know, I think, you know, there's clearly work to do tactically. That's for sure. We've got to, you know, if we're going to change what we're doing or we're going to stick with what we're doing, we've got to get better about what we're doing. There's no question about that. We're not a finished article at the moment, but you know, we've taken a little bit of a stride, I think, in some respects tonight towards that aim, and in other respects we'll look at it, go back and look at the footage, and more than realise that we've got work to do.
Thanks very much, Gavin.
Cheers.